Hey, Brian, good to see you. 2 hours ahead.
Hi, Brian.
Hi there, how's it going?
Yeah, good.
All right, we've
Good.
got four.
We got
You?
Brian and Cheng, David.
Right.
I'm gonna drop my video to save bandwidth.
Okay. So, hey, close the door so nobody can escape. All right. So let's get started. This is the ANIMA working group. Welcome. You're in Brisbane, IETF 119, and this is the Note Well page. So please inhale and consider everything you're saying, contributing here is public and follows the IETF rules. Oh, also, I pushed down, all these process slides into the backup because we've seen many of them so often that we should all remember them. But the one thing, obviously, if you're in this room, please, log in into Meet Echo, either scanning the QR code or the full or small application so that we can count you as a participant. The system will do it automatically. And if you're attending remotely, that's happening for free anyhow. All right, so for the chair slides, I just try to summarize. Okay. For the chair slides, I was just trying to summarize up where we stand in all the working group documents. So we've got since last IETF 118, there are 4 documents that moved from the working group into Area Director ISG review. We've got the grasp distribution that finished the working group last call in January 2024, submitted to the AD February 24. We've got JWS voucher that we submitted in January. And I think I still had here an open issue listed on the MediaMan, but I think that was resolved by removing the new registration type. Is that true? So I mean, the whole MediaMan stuff is not interesting for us, and it was what was originally in JWS. Michael, is that correct interpretation?
Yes.
Okay, let me just add that as a note for the slides. Yeah. Right. So then I think we should be fine with respect not hanging on any process things that we were depending on. And then the finally is and we also told Rob that this document JWS voucher can also perfectly well go through IESG up to RFC editor queue. We very safe that we're not ever going to need to change it, even though other documents are depending on it. But that is fully done. So and the final one in this is group Brusky Cloud. That was also in January. Rob already reviewed that, and I think there was a feedback on that. So Rob, you did. I'm not sure if they're for Brusky Cloud. If what the latest date after Rob's review is there? Are we still ready for a second review, or kind of?
Michael, Richard, the mic. So Owen and I have probably another 17 issues that to work through. That was the response. I believe we reposted another document just to get some, put another line in the sand. And he and I were trying to, bite off a couple a week or a day, but I guess we got slower. Sure. But I think we'll finish that off by the end of next week.
Yeah. Thanks. Oh yeah, and sorry, Rob.
So that one will go across to Mahesh, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
And actually, any of these now, I think all that will end up with Mahesh. The JWS voucher, I still think it's worth keeping it in the working group until the JWS voucher. I think it's worth keeping in the working group until is probably better. I don't know. I will try and look at Brusky AE though, if I can, over the next couple of days, if I can find time to at least get the review done for that one.
Yeah, I think we would just wanted to show that, you know, we've tried to cross the, you know, really all the stops in the working group finished and resolved. Michael, I think, was also suggesting I should try to show some of the amount of work that we've been investing by all these wonderful open and closed GitHub issues, which I try to put in the columns here. I won't bother you with the numbers, but I think there were some of these documents that really had significant amount of work done before, you know, they moved on since IETF 118. Yeah, Brusky AE also submitted, so that also is waiting for AD review from Mahesh, which I think is happy in the last 2 days of freedom. So, right. So then the working group documents in working group last call. That's Brusky PRM, constraint voucher, constraint joint proxy. Brusky PRM, I think we're going to hear of it. What I think high level the status was that I captured here that the Shepherd had done a review part 2 and another pass 3 to come. So we're expecting that to be passed to ISG before IETF 120. Constraint voucher and constraint proxy. Not sure if ESCO wants to say something more, but that work was just recently, since IETF 118 restarted. There are things that we need to move over to the Brusky discovery and otherwise catch up and do more review of this, because they have been dormant because we worked on the other documents for maybe 1 or 2 years now. Any more comments from you, ESCO?
Yeah, maybe for constraint joint proxy, I'm not currently an author on that,
yeah.
Although I could maybe become one, because there's quite some work to do still for that document. So maybe that's up to the working group to consider that, or.
So I think that's a TBD for one of us chairs to send a request, and if nobody has objections, then we can add him. If I got the process right from Michael.
Michael Richardson, Mike again. So one of the authors, Peter, is adamantly that he's really retired, and Panos has moved companies several years ago. So his cycle is to be able to spend on this. It would be lovely to have another author, or at least just someone else who can take some time on that. So that'd be great.
Same joint proxy. Yeah, I'll put that in the to-do in the notes for us chairs to send out that request to the working group. Okay. Back here. Right. So in the working group, what do we still have? RFC 8366 bis. So we
I had my hand up.
Sorry, what's more feedback?
This is Brian. I had my hand up.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, that was the other screen. Sorry, I'm
okay. Just wanted to say, I don't think you need permission from the working group to add an author. I think that's something the chairs can just do, to be honest. It's a long time since I read my working group chairs manual, but you know, I think you can just do it.
Okay, cool, thanks. I'm always happy not to do any bureaucracy that is not mandatory. Right, go back. Right, so RFC 83.6 bis, we're going to talk in the working group about it, even though I think Michael and I, as co-authors, didn't get to write really good slides for that. But yeah, so there are a couple of important decisions we need to make, and we're starting to also discuss them outside of the working group. So that's for that slot. Brusky discovery, we had an adoption call after IETF 118, so that was adopted. I haven't, unfortunately, since yesterday, when the time to post the 00 working group draft opened up. So I'll do that during this week when I find time, so that we have Brusky discovery 00. Okay, let's call it 24. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Plugin slide discovery fix. Okay. And then we've got the network service auto deployment. So tentatively, I put it into parking position, Sheng. Any kind of solution? I think you said that I had kind of the AI open to provide more productive feedback. Was that?
Yes. As far as I remember, you give us some private review as a document shepherd, and based on that, we produce 05 version. But after that, we failed to have more communication with you on whether the new version satisfies you or what we should do to do next. That's why we stopped there for a while. And last time I called you early December, you said you may have time to do that February or March. So we are still waiting, but I believe 1 or 2 rounds communication with you would work out some future work, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So I put that on the to-do list down at the bottom of the notes as well for me.
Thank you.
Right. So those were the working group documents. And then is there anything else in the slide deck here? I thought I had. Strange. Oh, wait a second. Takes long. Sorry, the slides are slow. Right. So just reminder, right? So we're always welcoming new work, especially for non-Brewski areas. We're going to have 2 presentations today on that. It's always good if new work is meaning that we may need more time in the working group to do that early enough, not at the deadline of submission, but at the deadline of putting in slot requests for the working group to meet, right? Otherwise, it will just get time that is left over from the ongoing working group time. Okay, so one more FYI that I stumbled across. We'll have this IoT directorate, and with more of the Brewski and other work in ANIMA may be of interest to IoT. That's actually good. 3 times a year call to listen in. There's status updates from all the working group chairs about the IoT related working groups. So I've always been putting in this stuff for ANIMA in that, and they also have the notes. So the directorate itself is closed, but you can read all the emails. They sometimes also have debriefs from the industry that they organize. So if any of your ANIMA work is related to IoT, then the directorate, also for any other IoT work you're doing in the IETF, might be interesting to observe that mailing list IoT directorate and listen into these calls before the IETF each time. Okay, so that's the chair slides. If there are no more questions on questions on bureaucratics or so, then let's go to the agenda.
Yes, one more. I'm just getting some audio from David, so maybe if he's listening. Thanks. Yes, that's better.
Sure. Okay. So the first one would be the update on Brewski AE from David.
Yes, back on audio.
Can you share the slides yourself, or do you want me to share them?
If you have them at hand, would be nice if you can. I sent you them, and I think they're officially in the list.
Oh yeah, you can share them as easily as I can. I think there is no difference anymore, but not sure. Let me see. Stop slides. Share slides. Brewski AE status. Conference connection. Okay.
Yeah, looks good. Thanks. I basically just have 2 slides to give an update on Brewski AE, which is about adding alternative enrollment protocols to Brewski, except apart from EST, which is already there, and we are focusing on CMP. So next slide, please. Yeah, as a little recap, last IETF in Prague, we had a very good side meeting of the ANIMA design team to sort out the last remaining open issue, which was how to address the discovery or letting clients know about enhanced feature sets offered by Brusky registrar. And we found a very good solution that all this is a pretty general problem and should be solved in a document of its own, which is Brusky Discovery, as Torles already mentioned earlier today. And until this is available, we wrote now in the Brusky e-text that a specific service name like Brusky's registrar CMP can be used as an interim solution. So with this solution in place, we updated respective sections in the text, and then Torles finished his Shepherd write-up, and this was just before Christmas, so he was able to sneak this as a Christmas present to the AD just before. What happened since then? There were just some minor improvements that were requested by the sector review from Barry Leiber. We incorporated those, and also Torles had given some suggestions for further minor improvements, which we also did. And then we had a second round of Siemens internal review. This also brought up some minor editorial improvements. And we also found that some references that we were using could be updated, and this is also done. So meanwhile, we are at version 10 of the document. Any questions, thoughts on this here? Yeah, Mike.
Michael Richardson, the mic. So I had a conversation during a hackathon that essentially suggests to me that there is an interesting new use case, which is where it's all transported over USB key rather than HTTP or Bluetooth BTLE. And I haven't had a chance to figure out whether that means any actual changes to this document. It may mean zero, but if that works, it's a fairly big use case, or the target. I don't want to go into it till I've written it up, but I just want to mention that it seems to be a useful thing. So I
see two aspects here. One is then that Brusky usually assumes TLS connectivity. But CMP does not. It works over any transport, including SneakerNet.
Yes.
So
that's
in this sense,
that's what I believe. It works. I have to convince myself that it's the case, and so that's what I just wanted to mention. I think it don't need any changes, but I need to convince myself that's the case, and I'll try to do that this week. Thanks.
Thanks. Then I think we can go to the next slide, which just wrap up what has been done. So we have had working was I call a year back, pretty exactly. Then with the Young Vectors update and sector update, and the mentioned finalization of the Brusky feature set discussion, Shepherd write-up and further reviews, and now the status is still being in AD review. Rob was nice that you're coming up.
Yeah, I apologize for not getting this done before I stepped down. I had a big pile of regional pile of documents with a large number of pages to get through over the last few months. So that's sort of, this has been behind those, and that's what's held it up. I would still try and get comments. I don't know, I'll still try and review it this week. Probably your comments will come via Mahesh, so I'll give the review to him, and then you'll have an opportunity to look at it as well. So I have started reviewing it, I just haven't got all the way through, so apologies for that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's also it from my side. Thanks for attention and your comments.
All right. Anything else? Okay, then I think we're switching over to Stefan. Okay, let me share.
Yes.
PRM.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon. Yep. So I would like to give a short update on Brewski PRM, so pledge in responder mode. So it's in version 12 now. We had the last version discussed during IETF 118 was version 10, and we had some changes in between, or some enhancements in between. So next slide, please. So the main changes, so there were no real technical changes, let's call it that way. So what we did after the review or further discussion that we had in the ANIMA design team is we included a DNS names service name definition that was missing in the IANA part of the document to allow the discovery of the pledge by the registrar agent. So we assumed that this is somehow there, but we didn't flesh it out explicitly, so we added the IANA registration for that. Then we had also, based on the discussion from the ANIMA design team, we had some further explanatory sections or explanations regarding the clarification of nomadic operation. So I put the service guy here with the stairs because that stems from the use case that we have an offline connectivity between the pledge and the registrar, and the service technician essentially uses something which we introduced in Brewski PRM a while ago, which is called the registrar agent, and that one is being used to carry the messages between the registrar and the pledge back and forth. In addition to that, the pledge in Brewski PRM became the server instead of just the client. So that was being clarified. So we have some more information included there. We also clarified the verification of wrapped CA certs responses that was necessary, or wrapping the CA certs responses is necessary because the registrar agent in our case is basically used to carry over the information from the registrar, not relying on an end-to-end TLS connection. So that was the reason to put in some additional wrapping signature on the CA certs that are provided via the registrar agent down to the pledge. So that clarification was included. Then we had the second part of the Shepherd review. So Matthias Kovac, who was the Shepherd for that document, split his Shepherd review into 3 parts, and we finalized the second part, which essentially led to structural improvements of the document. So we did some terminology alignment throughout the document and also provided a better red line for the steps, what follows after the other, following a more structured approach in the document, because there were certain leftovers, and now the text is much more improved. So that was focusing on the complete section 7 that describes the call flows between the pledge over the registrar agent and then to the backend registrar and also the Masa interaction. So in addition, we decided to change some of the prototypes that we had included in the document that were provided in JSON to CDDL to have some kind of aligned approach regarding those prototypes. So that means whenever Young is not available, then we now utilize CDDL for describing the prototypes. As said, we did, based on the Shepherd review, some terminology alignment and also the further editorial updates. Also, reference and duplicated text have been addressed. So that led to version 12 of the document. So from our point of view, it's again, it's stable. We are waiting for the next slide, please. We are waiting for the third part of the review by the Shepherd. So that means we addressed all of the issues that came from the working group last call, which was done before IETF 116. Also the IoT early review was addressed, and the sector early review was addressed. So what needs to be done from our side is incorporating the comments from the last part of the Shepherd review and the Shepherd write-up. We need, once the text is finished and also the prototypes are stable, we need to update the examples that are provided in the annex of the document to match the latest state of the definitions within the document. And once those two things are being done, the document is ready for AD review. So, and as always, we are happy if there is interest in interop testing. Yeah, so functionality is implemented, proof of concept implementations are available. And if you have interest in doing interop testing, that please address the authors of the draft. And that's actually it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Did the Shepherd, Thomas, give any idea how when he will have time to do the third round?
We haven't got any explicit announcement when he's doing the third round, but I think since we just recently, before the last or before this IETF meeting, had several sessions to incorporate the changes, I think we will use the momentum and basically work on that further on to finalize it soon.
Okay. Right. So I can stop that. So we have a slot here for RFC 8366 BIS, our wonderful voucher, which is a dependency for some of the Brewski drafts we're talking about so far. And we both haven't done slides. I mean, I can start saying what I see high level of the next step that we need to do. And Michael, you want to add to that? So just verbally, does that sound good? So we had a Shepherd review that was suggesting some directions for changing the Yang being used, as because the extension methods we've been trying to use were supposed to be not ideal. I was reviewing that, and I think one of the changes we could do would be potentially, viable insofar as that we figured out from the Yang RFC that it's must create exactly the same encoding as the other option. Whether or not that means it's a good thing for us to do, but if we're going to stick with Yang, then I think I would at least like to make the proposal between the authors and to the group, and we'll review the difference and see if that makes sense in our opinion. But I think the larger question is whether, given the absence after many years of tooling that can actually compile the Yang that we have for the purpose that we need to, the question really is, and there is almost nobody else that seems to be using Yang for these East-West protocols, and hence also the absence of the tool chains. The question is whether we should stay with Yang or recognize the opportunity that we could go to CDDL, given that we really seemingly only need JSON and CBOR as transports for the voucher itself, which may or may not be true if Kent or so has different opinion about that in the future. So, and so at least I think we wanted to investigate what people think about the option of going to CDDL as a specification instead of Yang for the voucher. So that was the big question that I had.
Michael Richardson and Mike. So Kent has only minutes ago told me of one way to get Yanglin to process our stuff that doesn't seem to be to cause it to be too far from what we think it is. So I haven't obviously tried it quite yet. And so that at least would first of all make us assured that we, first of all, in what we've done so far, we haven't broken anything. Alex has proposed something else. I don't remember what it is. My reaction at the time was, but I have no way of knowing whether it will be the same. But perhaps this also will let me evaluate whether or not that would be this different, and that would be a good improvement. The other thing, and is that there's a proposal from what, Benoit and some other people, I don't remember who, pardon me? Jean, yeah, for a full include mechanism to Yang, which I think is more close to what we actually were after at the time, but I'm not sure. The problem is it's still an individual ID. I would think that we would be adding, 6 to 10 months at minimum if we did that way. Okay, maybe more. Minimum. I said minimum, right? Okay, so I'm not enthusiastic about this. I think we're 2 years late on this already. But recognizing this is 8366 bis, and that the process for doing more Yang was to have bis, or was it tris? Try. There's another word for that. Anyway, tur. That's what it is. Tur. Carson would have known that. Would have corrected me instantly if I gotten it wrong. Maybe that's the time to think about it. The second thing is that the trend, as far as I can understand, which is after us within Yang modules and Ops AWG, is that they just have one RFC with the Yang and an RFC with all the other text, and that they only revise the Yang RFC when they update the Yang and not the other one. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. AD?
Sorry, what?
Yeah, I'm the same way, right? So typically there was one document, I know I shepherded both of them. It was, I don't know what it was. And there was one RFC that was literally just the Yang, was hardly anything else. This is the Yang module for blah, blah, blah. And the other one says, this is all about blah, blah, blah. And so the idea was that it wouldn't have to revise both RFCs to update the Yang.
Okay, so I think splitting the Yang module away from the protocol it's working with, that's fine and sensible, and yes, that's often done. I thought you were sort of suggesting that just the Yang module text itself would be in one draft, and the description text around that Yang module would end up being in another draft, and that doesn't happen. So all the sort of corresponding information about this is how this model is set up and this is how it's structured and things like that happens to be in the draft. The last thing to say is I have ambitions, not as an AD anymore, but to try and see if we can optimize the process to try and get more Yang stuff to be not in the drafts at all and be on GitHub and just references to them.
Whoa.
Yes.
That would be
That would be what?
Yeah. So that would be wonderful. So the question is, should we try to adopt that model with 8366 bis today?
Yes, I can't remember what's in the document. As in, is it describing both the protocol? Yes, I think it would be sensible to try and split the two and say this is the protocol definition and here's the associated data model to go with it, and put those in two separate documents. That would probably be a good idea.
Kent Watson, co-author. Sorry, very informal here. Okay, I just want a quick clarification. The voucher draft doesn't define anything protocol-ish. It's a voucher, which is like an artifact, a document. So it describes a document that can be.
Right, but we do explain how to sign it. We have examples of it in JSON, and probably CBOR now, okay? And we have some other text about, how it kind of, why it's there and what does it do and stuff like that. So, but my reading of, it was a Benoit close draft that I remember I shepherded, and there were two documents, and one of them was literally just the Yang module with maybe a little bit of abstract, and the other one was, this is how it's all used. I could go find the RFC, two RFCs if you like the example, and it was explained to me as this means we can rev the Yang module without actually opening up the rest of the text to, we're going to review it again and life has changed and whatever. So if someone needs to change the Yang module, they don't have to go through the quite as heavy a process.
So if you take an example like ISIS, then the protocol is specified in one RFC and the data model is in another RFC. But for cases where the work isn't that big, then you end up putting the two together, and that's fine, I think. So from what Kent describes, it sounds like this split would be somewhat arbitrary.
So I wrote down my transliteration of this into the notes. The way I see it, it's a digital artifact. The RFC itself describes the Yang model for it and some basic operations on it, like signing and other stuff. But the protocols that use it are various RFCs, right? There's one in netconf from Kent, there is 8995 from us, and then there are all these other new drafts that we're trying to push through that are using it, and each of them has a different subset of optional elements in the digital artifact that they're using to achieve their different purposes.
So it sounds like it's right at the moment, I think. It sounds like keeping it where it is and not splitting is the right answer.
Okay.
Yes, I concur. Because if there were a desire to update the Yang, then that motivation, how you use it, et cetera, would have to also be put into the other document. So you'd be updating two documents anyway. Yeah, exactly. So I don't see the particular advantage to having the two documents.
That was 9417, a service assurance model, and intent, and then there was 9418, which was essentially, there's like 6 or 7 paragraphs actually before and then the rest of this the Yang module, right? So that's the example that I saw, and I don't know if I don't know how well that applies to us, because they do, as you say, have a whole protocol and process, and then it was a Yang module for this. This Michael. So I'm not particularly picky one way or the other. I think we're going to revise it again, not next week, but before 2026, we'll revise it again, and perhaps by then there'll be a better process. So I guess and the other point is that the proposal that Alex had, maybe we should just do that then and not now. And I'm sensitive to the fact that I don't want to start changing things at the last minute, right?
All right. Sorry, Mahesh. So a couple of comments. I think the general sentiment of separating the Yang model from the draft and drafting it separately from the RFC and handling it as a more lightweight process, I completely agree. We just have to get more consensus in IETF that that's the way we want to do it. We don't have it as yet. We seem to insist that the document has to carry that model, but I can hope that that will change. So, my question was more related to the statement, I think, Paulus, that you made as there is no East-West protocol that uses Yang, and therefore we cannot use Yang. I'm not sure if I agree with that statement, or there's anything in the Yang language that prevents that East-West interaction. So maybe you might want to clarify what.
Yeah, I mean, that was just me trying to figure out what is really the best, practice in the IETF. And, we've got hundreds and hundreds of what I would call north-south protocols, right? And here it's not even a protocol, it's a digital object that is being used within other protocols, right? And that particular use, I haven't seen at all in the IETF being specified in Yang, right? And so that would mean that it almost sounds very logical that we might have problems with tool chains or, with other people finding the use of Yang very enlightening. When everybody else, for example, would rather do these things in CDDL or ASCII art, right? Which I think are the two, common practices we now have for these type of, digital artifacts in East-West protocols, right? That's how we specify them today.
Right.
Otherwise,
my point is, Yang is a data modeling language.
Right.
It's not tied to a particular protocol. Right? If you're trying to model a piece of data, whether it's an artifact or it's a protocol, I think Yang is perfectly capable of doing it.
Yeah, it's not about capability. It's about what's the best current practices in the IETF, right? I don't want to be a sole one person relying on something that nobody else does in the IETF, because that I don't think improves the value of using that, right? So if there is a big trend, and we were very early on, we were welcoming to see what the new stuff is that the IETF modeling side provides us. So we adopted it. But you know, if now something like CDDL is the better choice going forward, right? Then, and as Michael said, right, that we may have more updates. It doesn't necessarily mean that we need to do any changes right now. If we're really feeling we really want to get code out now, we have this stuff in 8366 pretty ready. And if we don't like many things of it, we can push that discussion to a next ref. But at least, you know, these were the things that we started in the working group teams to discuss about. So we wanted to bring it up in this meeting, especially when we have the two of you here.
I was going to ask how much tooling is that processes ASCII art, an effective way to generate code.
Yes.
But actually, I think your comment's sort of valid, really. That I don't think it's Yang's primary goal or use case. So I think it's a valid question to be asking: is Yang the best choice for this? And I don't know what the answer is. In some senses, because of where you are now, is it worth deviating, changing? If you've got implementations, then that's surely going to add cost to them. Going forward, I don't have any opinion as to whether you should change this or not at this stage. I would say that I think the IETF in the world could benefit from a more generic data modeling language, like a new version of ASN1 that's not ASN1, that's more Yang-like. Because I think Yang has lots of good properties about modeling stuff that are probably better than CDDL. Sorry.
Yeah,
that data modeling language was in that CDDL?
You guys need a microphone? Okay, Kent Watson again. Just quickly, the voucher, yep, all good? Yeah, do you want to bring it to the microphone or?
Yeah, Carsten Moore, I just heard the word better and reacted to this. We have lots of data modeling languages and lots of spaces. So you can use W3C schema for data modeling. And a lot of people like that because they can sell tools that you need to do that because it's really hard to do by hand. And ASN1 is in the same ballpark. For really simple artifacts like the one that we are discussing here, something like CGI works very well. If you want to do something like COSBIT with it, yes, you need more infrastructure, and we're building that at the moment. Yeah, so my recommendation would be to go ahead with CDL here, but of course, I'm slightly biased.
So, Kent, stepping back to the microphone. When Voucher was first created, and recall, it was actually part of the SCTP draft. And it was when ANIMA was being chartered, there was a discussion about that, and I, extracted it from the SCP draft, and we made it to 8366. As far as SCPD goes, it was a north-south protocol, or the artifact was intended to be. It was not, in ANIMA it's east-west, but in SCPD it's definitely north-south, and that was never an issue for us in that regard. I was going to say something practical, which is the SX structure that I think Michael's referring to. If you just want to compile with Piang, you just replace the string SX structure with the string container, and then validate your document, and that works with Piang. The other comment I'll make is that a simple, and maybe we're too far into the process for this, but the original 8366 defined a top-level container, and a possible fix would be to take that container, make it a grouping, and then create another container that uses the grouping. So it's structurally identical to what it was before, but now you have a grouping that could be used and referenced by another document. So you've left the original voucher alone, and then you can do whatever you want with that grouping.
I'm giving up. I can just write sentence container grouping. Sorry,
Michael Richardson, back the mic. So we actually tried some of that, right? And I, talked over a year ago about the results, and it works in one dimension, but not in two. So we can't mix and match two extensions to get a composite of that. it doesn't work. It results in overlapping things. But that's why we've pulled it all back in there. That was the thing that pushed us there. Okay. Having said that, Yang has been interesting. I'm not opposed to it. Did it help any coding? No, I don't think any of us coded had a tool that took Yang and produced code. Okay, so from that point of view, switching has no programmer cost. The cost of Yang was a cost because the programmers had to understand what was there. I think that probably most of them looked at the examples, go, oh, this is a dictionary, this is a dict inside of a dict, and here's the keys. And that was it, right? Okay, it wasn't anything really complicated. In the C-bar case, you have to figure out that the keys are deltas, not values, and they map to something else, but that's a particular aspect of that coding. We didn't have a tool that produced this, so moving away from Yang has no impact on our code or our tooling. We weren't using it. Moving to CDDL, there are some tools in some CDDL tools that can produce some tools, header files and stuff like this. Maybe there's more I don't know about, but it's unlikely that we're about to revise our process to do that. We're probably still going to essentially, I don't know what the right word is, open code it. I read the document, I write the code. I'm not I don't have anything translating it directly. And this is why Kent is reasonably concerned, and I am as well, that any things that we change to the Yang code with the way that we express it, Yang data to SX structure, do not actually change the serialization. This is what we're concerned about, okay? That everything that was valid before is still valid, okay? As long as that's the case, we can change the way that we represent it 12 times before Christmas, and no one cares because it's a documentation feature, not a coding feature. Unfortunately, okay. Unfortunately, that's the case, right? My conclusion, my takeaway is Kent has given me the formula for how I can now validate that actually our new document serializes to the same as the old document, which is a good thing. And we can see whether or not the Shepard comments about a different way of doing it, which I didn't understand at the time. I was just like, oh, this is different, and I have no way of proving it. I have no way of proving that it serializes the same. If it serializes the same, identically, then there will be good comments, and maybe we'll apply it. And if it actually serializes differently, then maybe that commenter will actually tell me how to fix it, or we just will say, thank you very much. We're not going there. So my take again is that we should revisit this when we do 8366 TER and figure it out then, right? It's as I said, it's over. We spent more than a year mucking around with this, and I don't want to spend any more time on this. And I think we have, and we've basically allowed all the other documents to progress forward to the point where we would block on this document now, period. So we don't want to make it worse.
Yeah, so I forgot about that. All the time we spent on trying to get this Yang stuff working, and kind of having the obvious guy only come to jump in 1 year later after we exhausted all the people who couldn't give us a good answer. So I think that's a good reason to call it quits for the BIS and just finish it up, and anything that we structurally want to improve for, so we can do for the third round.
Yeah, so Kent again, I agree. But just quickly, the full embed draft, I think, is the one that Michael was referring to earlier. I did just read it while we were waiting for this discussion to start. It actually looks quite good to me. I like it a lot. So I think it'll probably progress in hopefully in time for TER.
Okay.
Okay, can I call it quits on this slot? Sheng already last time got kicked out with his proposal that he had on the first non-working group slot. So can you share the slides yourself, Sheng?
I would like you to share the slides.
Okay, let me see.
Thank you.
No worries.
Okay. Here is a new proposed work, non-Breskey work. So you would like it, I guess. Next page, please. GRASP was designed as a generic and extensible protocol for management and operation from the very beginning. It covers all generic operation behaviors without depends on any specific objectives. It is powerful and extensible because it gets rid of the dependency on the specific objectives. There was a lot of protocols bounding to very certain specific objectives. However, we think GRASP still have some dependency here, and it is based on TCP and IPv6. Both are very heavy for resource-constrained devices, particularly those IoT devices, very cheap hardwares. And as we all know, TCP does not perform very well when the network connections are dynamic change or unstable. That will happen very often in wireless communication environment. And also TCP is time consuming for creating the new connections. Next page, please. Therefore, oh no, get back. You jumped one slide.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No. How many slides do you have?
It's 4 slides.
Next. Oh yeah. Sorry. Therefore, here are we to propose to work on a lightweight version of GRASP. In order to become lightweight, we can shorten the fixed field. It was designed mostly for IPv6, so it was 16 bits for each field, but for most of time, 8 bits would be not enough. In order to remove TCP dependency, we can put in an optional embedded reliability check and introduce the response model instead of the TCP check and bounding procedure. Also, by removing IP dependency, the newly proposed lightweight version of GRASP can be extensible to combine with any other protocols, particularly layer 2 protocols. It can also work with UDP and QUIC, etc. This proposed work would intend for experimental. Next page, please. We have not written a formal document yet because we would like to hear the opinions from ANIMA first. Is this proposal in charge of ANIMA working group? If yes, is ANIMA working group interested in it? I see Rob.
The speaker's an AD for the next couple of days, anyway. I think the answer to the first question is probably no. I don't see this as being in scope for the existing charter in ANIMA. You'd have to recharter to do this work, because otherwise there's a high risk that if this got through to the ISG, they would refuse to publish, or they'd send it back to working and say you need to change the charter. So I think your options here would be to try and recharter everything this is necessary. And again, I think that's your only option here, is to try and reach out to the working group if you wanted to try and do this work here.
Okay, get that as a working group chair. We'll see how the working group interested in it or not. I mean, if as I put down here on the slides, if the answer of any of this above question is negative, another option I can do as the potential author is change to be net with generic signaling protocols. In that way, it would be more general operation management rather than only support autonomic network only. So of course, that means I'm not going to do this work in the ANIMA working group. I probably need to go the ops director working group, I guess.
But even in that case, I don't think Ops AWG would take this on because this is too much, as that protocol you described, that's too big. So that either need to be buffed or would need a working group recharter of Ops AWG. I don't think there's any existing working group that says that this sort of change with this sort of size is in scope. I think it would have to be a buff or recharter. That's just my opinion because it doesn't matter in 2 days' time.
Okay. I thought the ops area working group is some working group can do any work in the ops area, but none of the specific working group can work on it.
Well, I think, you know, Ops AWG is also highly overloaded, but I mean, we'll just take Rob's answer. Are you in the queue? Otherwise, Brian?
Yeah, I did at one point look at what would be involved in making my current implementation of GRASP run over TCP instead of UDP, probably because Sheng had told me it was of interest a long time ago. And my conclusion was that it was actually not necessarily going to end up with less overhead, because it turns out that if you look at all the places where you simply assume TCP works, because normally TCP works, and had to put in a failure case, and what did you do about the failure, and how much state did you have to keep about the UDP datagrams that you'd sent and hadn't got a reply to, and so on. It looked to me as if the code path, even if it didn't go through the TCP code, would still be quite a bit longer for each packet than it is at the moment with TCP doing all that stuff for you. So I remain to be convinced that switching away from TCP actually saves you anything, unless you have an extremely reliable network that never loses packets, even when it's in the middle of a failure, which of course is a consideration for, at least for a network management protocol, that it's got to work even when the network is fairly broken. So I have my doubts. I'm not saying it shouldn't be investigated, but I have some doubts about it. I also say something that Michael's already put in the chat, which is most of the time we don't send zeros in large numbers because we're using CBOR. So on the wire, the large fields, maybe 32-bit fields, don't take 32 bits, they take less. But that's just a general observation about any protocol using CBOR. But the best way to take this forward would be, in my opinion, an implementation followed by a documentation followed by a BOF, and then we'd see.
Okay. I mean, actually, TCP is really expensive, particularly to keep the TCP channel for bonding. For most of the IoT devices, its memory just be able to affordable maybe 8 to 10 TCP connection parallelized. So that's really expensive for TCP. Particularly those IoT devices may only set 1 or 2 package per hour and even less. So if from the beginning they don't have to have the TCP stack, that would be ideal for them. Okay.
Yeah, I know that's true, and I don't know quite what difference it would make in the code path. That's all I'm saying. It's to some extent it's an experimental question. So do an experiment.
Yeah.
Bing?
Hi, Sean. This is Ben speaking. And in general, or personally, I believe that we have such requirement to not necessarily lightweight, but maybe just to decouple such things as you mentioned in the slides, for example, TCP or even L3 connectivity. When we're doing some internal work, we found that there are many scenarios that doesn't support IPv6 or even doesn't support L3 routing. So personally, I very much want to see we can remove such dependency and to make the grasp more adaptive to different scenarios. Yeah, that's a general comment. So personally, I would like to see maybe a draft to come up with more details. Yeah, thanks.
Carsten Bormann, just an observation. Almost everything you said really points to CoAP, because that doesn't have the C10K problem. You can have any number of UDP relationships open with CoAP or whatever package protocol you want to run, and it's really very lightweight. So maybe you should examine that, whether it possibly solves your problem. And it's very complicated.
Well, even DTLS has retransmissions, right? So if the only thing we want to get is reliability, right? So we can have just, you know, grasp over DTLS, right? I mean, we need probably some security layer anyhow.
Well, the DTLS handshake protocol has retransmissions.
I thought to understand that even the normal data, not just the handshake, but even the data afterwards has retrans. Am I wrong? Seriously?
Only the handshake. And only the handshake has fragmentation.
Okay. I was wondering about, you know, the stream cipher impact of packet loss and so on. So that's why I was thinking that might be true what I think I heard, but maybe, you know, there was a mistransmission. Meant only
so just have a look at CoAP. I
Yeah.
think you will find interesting
Ye-
things.
Okay.
Can I just say that one of the problems with DTLS, I thought, was that it doesn't do multicast, and that is a bit of a problem for grasp type protocols.
Yeah, of course.
I could mention that CoAP has an alternate security layer which does not do multicast.
Right.
So again, look at the work of the core and CoAP.
Okay, so I think we're reaching the end of the session, and I think I'll have to skip the last slot that I was proposing. We have an ongoing call for an interim, so I think we have some potential topics to talk about, things that we've overrun, but primarily also trying to see that we get everybody together to see that we streamline closing on the open issues. Michael was proposing that we should look in interim. Any more points you would raise on that? Otherwise, we can try to take it to the list to set up the schedule. And so find the mail, look up for your availability in last week of April, and then we can continue the work there. Other than that, I would say in person, see you in Vancouver, hopefully, more people. And Sheng, anything, last closing words? Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you, Ken. Next time, can you come in here earlier, please?
Question, please?